Rich man finds girls in the trash, and when he sees what the mother did, he can't hold back tears. Michael Harrison couldn't take his eyes off the rearview mirror. The red traffic lights seemed to pulse at the same rapid pace as his heart as he watched the scene he had just witnessed. Two small children, no more than 7 and 2 years old, were rummaging through trash bags on a dark street corner in downtown New York. The 45-year-old businessman had just left another successful business meeting. His gleaming black Lexus contrasted dramatically with the harsh reality of that abandoned street. Michael always took that route to avoid traffic, but he had never paid attention to the dark details surrounding that degraded area of the city. When the light turned green, he automatically accelerated, but something made him hit the brakes a few meters ahead. The image of the two girls kept hammering in his mind. There was something wrong with that scene. Children that age shouldn't be alone on the street at that time of night. Michael reversed and parked the car near the spot where he had seen the children. As he got out of the vehicle, the strong smell of accumulated garbage invaded his nostrils. He had never smelled such an intense odor, accustomed as he was to the climate-controlled environment of his office on the 20th floor of a commercial building on Fifth Avenue. As he approached, Michael noticed that the girls weren't alone. A young woman, who appeared to be about 25 years old, was sitting on the damp ground, leaning against a peeling wall. She held a baby in her lap, wrapped in a worn blanket that had once been white. The woman raised her tired eyes when she noticed the well-dressed stranger approaching. Her brown hair was disheveled, and her thin face showed signs of deep exhaustion. Even so, she instinctively pulled the two girls closer to her in a protective gesture that touched Michael's heart. "Excuse me," said Michael, keeping a respectful distance. "Is everything okay? Can I help in any way?" The woman watched him with suspicion, but her voice came out weak and trembling. "You don't need to worry about us, sir. We're used to it." "Used to what?" Michael asked, genuinely confused. "To life, you know," replied the older girl, who Michael noticed had intelligent and alert eyes. "Mommy says we have to be strong." Michael crouched down to be at the children's eye level, ignoring the fact that his expensive suit might get dirty. "What are your names?" "I'm Emma," said the older girl with a shy smile. "This is Olivia," she pointed to the younger sister, "and this is baby Ethan." "And your mother?" Michael turned his gaze to the young woman. "Sarah," she replied softly, as if ashamed to reveal her own name. Michael noticed that Sarah was trembling, even though it wasn't cold. Her clothes were clean but extremely worn. He noticed she was wearing old sneakers that had been carefully washed. There was a dignity amid that desperate situation that impressed him. "Do you live here?" asked Michael, trying to better understand the situation. Sarah hesitated before answering. "We're going through a difficult period, but it's temporary." "How long has it been temporary?" Michael's direct question made Sarah lower her eyes. 3 weeks. Michael felt a tightness in his chest. "And you've been sleeping on the street for 3 weeks?" "Mommy doesn't like it when people ask that," interrupted Emma, noticing her mother's discomfort. "She says we shouldn't be a bother to anyone." Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now continuing. Michael looked at Sarah with a mixture of admiration and concern. "Do you have family? Someone who can help?" "I have no one," Sarah replied, clutching the baby to her chest. "My parents passed away when I was young, and the children's father." Her voice faltered for a moment. "He disappeared when he found out Ethan was coming." "And do you work?" "I used to," Sarah corrected, "at a bakery. But when I got pregnant with Ethan, I started feeling unwell at work. The owner said he couldn't keep me because I was hurting the store's business." Michael felt anger rising within him. How could someone fire a pregnant woman? "Did you try looking for other jobs?" "I tried many," Sarah sighed, "but no one wants to hire someone with 3 small children, and I have no one to leave them with." Sarah's brutal honesty hit Michael like a punch to the gut. He had never encountered such a desperate situation up close. He had always contributed to charities, but from a distance, through bank transfers that barely made a dent in his $1-million budget. "What did you eat today?" Michael asked, dreading the answer. Sarah looked at her daughters before responding. The girls ate. We got some bread from a bakery that was going to throw it out. And you? I wasn't hungry. Michael knew she was lying. Sarah's thin face and prominent cheekbones betrayed days without proper nourishment. When was the last time you had a real meal? That doesn't matter, Sarah replied firmly. What matters is that the children don't go without. The determination in her voice moved Michael deeply. He had met many people in his business career, but he had never encountered anyone capable of such selflessness. Let me help you, he said, taking his wallet from his pocket. No, Sarah said immediately, raising her hand. I don't accept handouts. It's not a handout, Michael insisted. It's just some help so you can eat today. To me, it's a handout, Sarah remained firm. I've always worked for everything I have. I'm not going to start accepting charity now. Michael was impressed by this woman's dignity. Even in the most desperate situation he could imagine, she refused to accept money without working for it. Then let me offer you work. What kind of work? Sarah asked, suspicious. I have several companies. I always need honest, hard-working people. I don't have an education, Sarah admitted, ashamed. I stopped in 5th grade to start working. That's not a problem, Michael said. What matters is the willingness to work, and you clearly have that. Sarah looked at her daughters, who were watching her expectantly. And them? I have no way to leave the children with anyone. We can stay alone, Mom, said Emma, with impressive maturity for her 7 years. I know how to take care of Olivia and Ethan. No, Sarah said firmly. Your children, you won't stay alone. Michael understood the dilemma. How could a single mother with 3 small children work? What if I arrange daycare for them? Daycare costs money, Sarah pointed out, and I won't have money until I start working. Leave it to me. I'll take care of it. Sarah looked at Michael with skepticism. Why do you want to help me? You don't even know me. The question caught Michael off guard. Why was he really doing this? Honestly, I can't explain, he admitted, but I can't just walk away and pretend I didn't see you here. Many people have passed by here and pretended they didn't see us, Emma said innocently. The child's words echoed in Michael's mind. How many times had he himself passed by similar situations without bothering to stop and help? The answer shamed him. Look, Michael said, I'll be direct with you. I have a lot of money. More than I need. And you're going through hard times. It seems obvious that I should help. Things in life aren't that simple, Sarah replied. Rich and poor live in different worlds. Maybe it's time to change that, Michael suggested. Sarah studied him for a long moment. Michael could see the internal war playing out in her eyes. She wanted to accept the help, especially for the children, but her pride and dignity prevented her from accepting charity. If you're serious about the job, she said finally, I accept, but I want to make it clear that I'll work hard to earn every penny. I wouldn't expect anything different, Michael smiled. And the children stay with me until I can get organized, Sarah continued. I won't be separated from them. Of course, Michael agreed. Family doesn't get separated. Emma tugged at Michael's shirt. Mister, do you have children? The innocent question struck Michael in the heart. No, I don't. Did you never want any? Michael looked at the girl with her curious and hopeful eyes. I never thought I had what it takes to be a father. My mom says you don't need to have what it takes to love someone. You just need to want to. Emma's childlike wisdom left Michael speechless. He had spent his entire life focused on building a business empire, but had never seriously thought about building a family. He always thought children were an obstacle to professional success. Your daughter is very smart, he said to Sarah. They all are, Sarah replied with pride. Emma learns everything very quickly. I wish so much I could give her a good education. That we can also arrange, Michael said. You're talking as if it were easy to solve everything, Sarah observed. Life isn't like that. For me, it always has been, Michael admitted. When I have a problem, I pay to solve it. And how do you solve a problem that can't be solved with money? Michael stopped to think. In truth, he had never faced a problem that money couldn't solve. But looking at that family, He realized there were things far more complex than financial matters. There was love, sacrifice, dignity, things that had no price. "I don't know," he admitted honestly. "But maybe you can teach me." Sarah smiled for the first time since Michael had arrived. "I don't know if I have much to teach someone who's achieved so much success in life." "I've made a lot of money," Michael corrected. "I don't know if that's the same thing as success." The conversation was interrupted when baby Ethan started crying. Sarah immediately began rocking him gently, humming a lullaby softly. Michael watched the tenderness in her movements, the way her thin hands caressed the baby's face. "He's hungry," Sarah explained, clearly embarrassed. "We'll take care of that right now," Michael said, standing up. "Do you know any restaurants around here?" "Mister," Emma tugged on his pants, "we can't go into a restaurant." "Why?" "Because of our clothes," the girl explained simply. Michael looked at the family and understood. Their clothes, though clean, were very worn, and he knew many establishments discriminated against people who appeared unable to pay. "Then we'll buy food and eat somewhere else." "Where?" asked Sarah. "At my house." The silence that followed was awkward. Michael realized his suggestion might sound inappropriate. A family of strangers in a rich, single man's house. He understood the distrust. "Or we can eat in the car," he suggested quickly. "Or in a park. Or wherever you feel most comfortable." "Why are you doing all this?" Sarah asked again. But this time her voice carried more curiosity than suspicion. Michael thought carefully about his answer. "Because for the first time in my life I found people who need help that I can give. And because—" he hesitated. "Because you remind me that there are more important things than making money." "Like what?" "Like taking care of those we love." Sarah watched Michael for a long moment. "Did you lose someone?" The question hit Michael unexpectedly. "My parents, when I was 18, a car accident." "I'm sorry. It was a long time ago, but after that, I focused only on work. I never let anyone get close enough for me to worry about losing them again." "And did that work?" Michael looked at the three children, who were watching him attentively, and then at Sarah. "It worked until today, but today I realized that a life without caring about anyone is an empty life." "And what changed today?" "You," Michael said simply. "You changed." Sarah lowered her eyes, clearly moved. "We're nothing special. We're just a family trying to survive." "Exactly," said Michael. "A family that loves each other enough to face anything together. That's the most special thing I've ever seen." Emma approached Michael and took his hand. "Mr. Michael, can you be part of our family too?" The child's innocent question filled Michael's eyes with tears. How long had it been since he'd felt that sense of belonging to something bigger than himself? "I'd like that very much," he said with a choked voice. "Then it's decided," declared Emma with the determination of an adult. "Now you're our family friend." Michael smiled through the tears. "Family friend, I like that." Sarah watched the interaction with an unreadable expression. Michael could see she was still torn between the need to accept help and the fear of becoming dependent on others' charity. "Sarah," he said softly, "I know this is hard for you, accepting help from a stranger, but I promise it's not charity. It's an investment." "An investment in what?" "In your daughter's future, and in my own future too. Because I have a feeling that meeting you will change my life as much as I hope to change yours." Sarah looked at her daughters, who were watching her expectantly. The baby Ethan had stopped crying and was sleeping in her arms. "Okay," she said finally, "but I want to work. For real. I don't want to be treated like a charity case." "You'll work harder than you imagine," Michael promised, "and you'll be treated with all the respect you deserve. And if it doesn't work out?" "It will work out," Michael said, with a conviction that surprised even himself. "I'm sure." As they walked toward Michael's car, Emma ran ahead, clearly excited about the prospect of change. Olivia walked beside her mother, holding her free hand while Sarah carried Ethan. "Mr. Michael," said Emma, "your car is very nice." "Thank you," Michael smiled. "Want to know a secret? It's the first time I think it's good for something really important." Transporting family is very important, Emma agreed seriously. While helping Sarah settle the children in the back seat, Michael noticed she was trembling, not from cold, but from nervousness. "Is everything okay?" he asked. "It's the first time I've been in a car like this," admitted Sarah. "I'm afraid of dirtying something." "Sarah," Michael said firmly, "this car is just a piece of metal. You are much more important than any object I could have." The words seemed to calm Sarah a little. She settled into the front seat, still holding Ethan, and looked around the luxurious interior of the Lexus. "Where are we going?" she asked. "First we'll buy food. Then, if you want, you can come to my house tonight. Tomorrow we start sorting everything out. Work, housing, school for the girls." "Are you sure about this? Isn't this impulsive?" Michael stopped to reflect on the question. Truly, this was completely out of character for him. Usually, he would analyze every decision for weeks before acting. But something about this situation made him want to act immediately. "Maybe it is impulsive," he admitted, "but sometimes impulses are the only way to do the right thing." "What if you regret it?" "Impossible," Michael replied without hesitation. On the way to the supermarket, Emma asked dozens of questions about everything she saw out the window. Michael realized she had spent years living in a very small area of the city and had rarely seen other parts of New York. "How many stores are there in the world?" asked Emma. "Many," Michael laughed. "Do you want to see them all?" "I want to see a bookstore," said Emma. "My school teacher said there are stores that only sell books." "Do you like to read?" "I love it," Emma said enthusiastically, "but I've only read school books. Mummy said when she has money, she'll buy books for me." Michael glanced at Sarah in the rearview mirror. She was watching her daughter with an expression of sadness mixed with love. He could imagine how many promises Sarah had made to her daughters, hoping to be able to keep them one day. "After the market, we'll go to a bookstore," Michael promised. "Really?" Emma shouted with joy. "Michael," Sarah said softly, "you don't have to do this." "I want to," Michael replied. "And besides, a smart girl like Emma needs books." At the supermarket, Michael watched Sarah choose the most basic and cheap items. When he tried to add other things to the cart, she protested. "It's too much," said Sarah. "We don't need that much." "When was the last time you ate fruits?" Michael asked. Sarah didn't answer, but her expression said it all. Michael put several fruits in the cart, along with milk, fresh bread, cheese, ham, and other items he considered basic, but clearly represented luxury for that family. In the checkout line, Emma held Michael's hand. "Thank you for taking care of our family," she said simply. The child's words made Michael realize that in just a few hours, those 4 people had become the most important thing in his life. He couldn't explain how or why, but he knew he could no longer live without worrying about their well-being. At the bookstore, Emma was completely dazzled. She ran through the aisles, gently touching the book covers as if they were precious treasures. "Can I choose anyone?" she asked, incredulous. "As many as you want," Michael replied. "But I only know how to read children's books," Emma admitted. "Then let's start there, and later you'll learn to read more difficult books." Sarah followed her daughter through the aisles, clearly moved to see Emma's joy. "She's always been thirsty for knowledge," she said to Michael. "Since she was little, she asked 1,000 questions about everything." "And did you always answer?" "I tried. But there are many things I don't know myself." Michael had an idea. "How about if you also choose some books, to learn along with her?" "Me?" Sarah seemed surprised. "I don't have time to read." "You will," Michael assured. "In your new job, you'll have time for many things." "What kind of company do you have?" Sarah asked, curious. "Several," Michael replied. "Construction, technology, import, but the main one is business consulting." "I don't know anything about that," Sarah admitted. "You don't need to know yet. You can start in a simpler role, and then, as you learn, you can grow in the company." "Do you think I have the ability for that?" Michael stopped walking and looked directly at Sarah. "You raised 3 daughters practically alone, managed to support them even without an education, and still taught them values that many wealthy people never learn. If that isn't capability, I don't know what is." Sarah lowered her eyes. clearly touched by the words. "Thank you for saying that. It's the truth." When they arrived at Michael's house, a mansion in an upscale neighborhood of New York, the family fell into complete silence. The house was enormous, with well-kept gardens and a garage that could hold several cars. "My God," murmured Sarah. "Do you live alone in this entire house?" "I do," Michael replied, suddenly feeling embarrassed by the excess. "It's too big for one person, isn't it?" "It's too big for 10 people, Emma said, impressed. Inside the house, the luxury was even more evident. Expensive furniture, works of art, a kitchen equipped with every imaginable appliance. Sarah walked as if she were afraid of breaking something. "Make yourselves at home," Michael said. "The house is yours now, too." "Michael," Sarah said hesitantly, "this is temporary, right? Just until I can get myself organized." The question took Michael by surprise. Somehow, in his mind, he had already decided that this family would be a permanent part of his life. But he understood that it would be too much pressure for Sarah if he expressed that so quickly. "Of course," he said, trying to sound casual. "Just until you get organized." But inside, Michael hoped that this process of getting organized would take a long time. In the kitchen, while they prepared a simple dinner with the groceries bought at the market, Michael observed the family dynamics. Emma helped her mother, Olivia played on the floor, and the baby Ethan slept in a makeshift crib with pillows. "Can I help?" offered Michael. "Do you know how to cook?" Sarah asked, surprised. "No," admitted Michael. "I always eat at restaurants or order in." "You never learned?" "My mother died when I was leaving home for college, and after that, I never had the need to learn." Sarah stopped chopping the vegetables and looked at Michael. "It must have been hard losing your parents so young." "It was, but I focused on work and didn't have time to miss anything else." "And now?" Michael thought about the question. "Now I realize I've missed a lot. I just didn't know it." During dinner, Michael was charmed by the family's conversations. Emma talked about school, Olivia made funny comments about the food, and Sarah smiled more than Michael had ever seen before. The large dining table, which had always been formal and silent, came to life with their presence. "Michael," said Emma, "are you alone because you want to be or because you haven't found a family for yourself?" The child's direct question made Michael choke on his water. "I always thought that working was more important than having a family." "And now?" "Now I think I was wrong." "You can have a family whenever you want," declared Emma. "You're very nice." "Thank you, Emma. You're very nice too." "And smart," added Olivia. "Emma knows how to read." "That's true," Michael agreed. "She's very smart." Sarah watched the interaction with a gentle smile. "They really like you. And I really like them. All of you." After dinner, Michael showed the family the bedrooms in the house. There were more rooms than they needed, all with private bathrooms and quality furniture. "The girls can share a room or each can have their own," offered Michael. "We can share," said Emma. "I like taking care of Olivia." "And you," Michael addressed Sarah, "can choose any room you want." Sarah looked around, clearly uncomfortable with so much luxury. "Michael, this is too much. We don't need all this." "But I want you to have it," Michael said. "And besides, these rooms have been empty for years. It's good to have people living in them." "Are you sure you're not rushing into this? You don't really know me. What if I'm a bad person?" Michael laughed. "Sarah, bad people wouldn't sacrifice their own meal to feed their children. Bad people wouldn't turn down easy money because they want to earn what they receive. You're one of the best people I've ever met." "I'm no saint," Sarah protested. "You don't need to be. You just need to be yourself." That night, Michael stayed awake for a long time, listening to the sounds of the house that had been silent for years. Footsteps in the hallway, running water, soft murmurs of Sarah soothing the baby. They were sounds that spoke of life, of family, of home. For the first time in decades, Michael felt at home in his own house. The next day, Michael woke up to the smell of fresh coffee coming from the kitchen. When he went downstairs, He found Sarah already awake, preparing breakfast for the family. "Good morning," he said. "You didn't have to do that." "I wanted to," Sarah smiled. "It's the least I can do after so much hospitality." "Where are the girls?" "Still sleeping. It's been a while since they slept in a real bed. I think they'll want to take advantage of it." Michael poured himself some coffee and sat at the kitchen table. "How did you sleep?" "Better than in weeks," Sarah admitted. "And you?" "Me too. It's strange, but the house feels more alive with you here." Sarah lowered her eyes. "Michael, I need to talk to you about something." The serious tone made Michael alert. "Of course. What is it?" "I can't stay here indefinitely. As generous as you are, I need to gain my independence, for the girls' sake and for my own." Michael felt a twinge of disappointment, but understood her point of view. "I understand, but that doesn't mean we have to drift apart completely, does it?" "No," Sarah smiled. "It means I want to build an equal relationship with you, not one of dependence." "I respect that," Michael said. "In fact, I admire that." "Thank you. So, let's start today. Do you want to see the company?" Sarah nodded. "I do. But what about the children?" "I can arrange a babysitter for today. Tomorrow I'll sort out the daycare issue." "A babysitter must be expensive." "Sarah," Michael gently interrupted, "let me handle these initial things. When you're working and earning your own money, then you take over all the costs. Agreed?" Sarah hesitated, but agreed. "Agreed." Michael's company was in a modern building in the Fifth Avenue area. On the way, Michael explained the basics of the business to Sarah. "We help other companies improve their processes, reduce costs, and increase efficiency," he explained. "And how do you do that?" "We analyze how they work, identify problems, and suggest solutions." It sounds complicated. At its core, it's basically problem solving. And you've spent your whole life solving problems with limited resources. That's a very valuable skill. At the office, Michael introduced Sarah to some employees. He noticed looks of curiosity and, in some cases, prejudice. Sarah noticed too and remained quiet and discreet. "Ignore the looks," Michael murmured to her. "They'll learn to respect you when they see how you work." "What if I can't do the job?" "You will, I'm sure." Michael started Sarah in an administrative support role, organizing documents and files. It was simple work, but required attention to detail and organization, qualities Sarah clearly possessed. During the first day, Michael discreetly observed how Sarah behaved in the work environment. She arrived earlier than everyone, was the last to leave for lunch, and showed a dedication that impressed even the most skeptical employees. "How was the first day?" Michael asked at the end of the workday. "Scary," Sarah admitted, "but good. I like feeling useful." "You've always been useful. It's just that now you're being recognized for it." On the way home, Michael stopped at a private school near his house. "I want to show you something." The school was beautiful, with a spacious playground and well-equipped classrooms. Michael spoke with the principal about the possibility of enrolling Emma and Olivia. "It's an expensive school," Sarah murmured to Michael. "It's a good school," he corrected. "And your daughters deserve the best." "Michael, I won't be able to afford this even when I'm working." "Who said you're going to pay? This is my gift to Emma and Olivia." "I can't accept this." "Why not?" "Because it's too much. Education is a very expensive and important thing." "Exactly because it's important that I want to give it to them," Michael argued. "Sarah, you'd sacrifice anything for your daughters, right?" "Of course." "Then let me do the same thing." The comparison left Sarah without arguments. Michael could see the conflict in her eyes between the desire to give the best to her daughters and the reluctance to accept such significant help. "I'll consider this a loan," she said finally. "Someday I'll pay this money back." "If that makes you feel better, it can be," Michael agreed, knowing he would never accept the money back. That night, during dinner, Michael told the girls about the school. "Is it a school only for rich girls?" Emma asked, worried. "That's a school for smart girls," Michael corrected. "And you're very smart." "But what if the other girls don't like me because I'm poor?" Emma's innocent question broke Michael's heart. "First, You're not poor. You're part of a family that has dignity and love, and that's worth more than any money. Second, if someone doesn't like you because of money, that person doesn't deserve to be your friend. And if I can't keep up with the classes? You will, Michael said with conviction. And if you need help, I'll hire a private tutor for you. You'd hire a tutor just for me? I'd hire as many tutors as necessary. Sarah watched the conversation with tears in her eyes. Michael, she said softly, you're doing much more than anyone would do. I'm doing what anyone should do, corrected Michael, taking care of those they love. The word love hung in the air for a moment. Michael realized he had exposed himself more than he intended, but the words had come out naturally. You love us? Sarah asked, surprised. Michael looked at the three children and then at Sarah. Yes, he said simply. I love you. All of you. Emma got up from her chair and ran to hug Michael. We love you too, she declared. Olivia followed her sister, and soon Michael was being hugged by both girls. Sarah remained seated but smiled through her tears. How did this happen so fast? She murmured. I don't know, Michael admitted. But it did. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now continuing. In the following weeks, a new routine was established. Michael took the girls to school every morning before going to work. Sarah went with him to the office, where she quickly stood out for her dedication and attention to detail. In the evening, they had dinner together as a family. But not everything was easy. At the office, some employees continued to treat Sarah with disdain. Michael noticed that some malicious comments reached her, although Sarah never complained. Can I talk to you? Michael called Sarah into his office one afternoon. Of course. Did I do something wrong? On the contrary. You've been doing a magnificent job, but I've noticed that some people here aren't treating you with the respect you deserve. Sarah sighed. It's normal, I understand. It's not normal, and you shouldn't accept it. Michael, these people studied at expensive colleges, have degrees, come from structured families. It's natural for them to see me as an intruder. You're not an intruder. You work here. You deserve the same respect as any other employee. In theory, yes. In practice. Sarah shrugged. Michael felt anger growing inside him. Who specifically is being disrespectful to you? I don't want to cause problems for anyone. Sarah, tell me. Reluctantly, Sarah mentioned a few names. Michael knew those employees well. Some had worked with him for years. The disappointment was great. I'll talk to them. Michael, don't do that. It'll make the situation worse for me. It won't get worse. It'll get better. People only respect when there are consequences for disrespect. The next morning, Michael called a meeting with the entire team. I want to talk about professional respect, he began. It has come to my attention that some employees aren't treating all colleagues with the same courtesy. The employees exchanged glances, but no one said anything. Let me be clear, Michael continued. In this company, all employees are equal, regardless of their background, education, or position. Any discriminatory behavior will result in immediate termination. The silence in the room was tense. Sarah, Michael addressed her, would you like to add anything? Sarah looked visibly uncomfortable. No, thank you. Then it's settled. I hope that from today on we all treat each other with the respect we deserve. After the meeting, some employees approached Sarah to apologize. Others kept their distance but stopped the mean comments. Thank you, Sarah said to Michael later, but now they'll hate me even more. They won't, and if they do, that's their problem. You're not here to please anyone. You're here to work and be respected. What if this affects business? If clients don't like me? Michael laughed. Sarah, you underestimate your own worth. Just yesterday, Mr. Thompson mentioned to me that he's never seen the company files so organized. He said he can finally find everything he needs. Really? Really? You're making a difference here, a positive difference. The conversation was interrupted when Michael's secretary knocked on the door. Excuse me, Mr. Michael, there's an urgent call from Emma's school. Michael's heart raced. What happened? I don't know. They just said it was urgent. Michael took the call immediately. It was the school principal. "Mr. Michael, I need you to come pick up Emma. There's been an incident." "What kind of incident? Is she hurt?" "She's not physically hurt, but there was a problem with some classmates." Michael and Sarah rushed to the school. On the way, Sarah was visibly nervous. "I knew this would happen," she murmured. "I knew she wouldn't fit in at that school." "We don't know what happened yet," Michael tried to calm her. "Let's wait and see." At the school, they found Emma sitting in the office, her eyes red from crying. Sarah immediately hugged her. "What happened, my love?" "The girls in my class said I shouldn't be here," Emma sobbed. "They said this school is for rich girls and that I'm poor." Michael felt anger rising like volcanic lava. "Which girls?" "Michael," Sarah said quietly. "Fighting with children won't solve anything." The principal approached. "I'm sorry about what happened. We've already spoken with the other students and their parents will be notified." "And what else are you going to do?" asked Michael. "We will reinforce discussions about respect and inclusion in all classes." "That's not enough," Michael said firmly. "My daughter is being bullied." The words "my daughter" came naturally from Michael, and he realized he truly felt Emma was his daughter. "I understand your concern," said the principal, "but these incidents are part of the adjustment process." "They're not part of any process," Michael replied. "They're part of poorly educated prejudice." Sarah touched Michael's arm. "Maybe it's better if I take Emma out of this school." "No," Michael said immediately. "Emma won't be expelled because other children are prejudiced. She has every right to study here. But if she's not happy, she'll be happy when the other children learn to respect her." Michael addressed the principal again. "I want a meeting with the parents of the children involved. Mr. Harrison, that might be counterproductive. I want the meeting. Today." The principal hesitated, but agreed to schedule the meeting for late afternoon. Back in the car, Emma was calmer, but still shaken. "Michael," she said, "did you call me your daughter at school?" Michael looked in the rearview mirror. "I did. How did you feel about that?" "I liked it," Emma smiled timidly. "Can you be my dad?" The question made Michael pull the car over to the shoulder. He turned to look Emma in the eyes. "Would you like me to be your dad?" "I'd like that very much." Michael looked at Sarah, who was watching the scene with tears in her eyes. "And you?" "What do you think?" "I think you're already their dad, Michael, and they're already your daughters. It just needs to be made official." Sarah's words moved Michael deeply. "Then it's decided. You are my family, officially." "And Mommy?" asked Emma. "Will she be your family too?" Michael looked at Sarah, who blushed slightly. "If she wants to," he said. "I do," Sarah whispered. At that moment, parked on the shoulder of a busy New York street, they became a true family. The school meeting that afternoon was tense. The parents of the children involved in the incident were clearly upper-class people who saw Emma's presence in the school as inappropriate. "With all due respect," said one of the mothers, "this school has always served a select clientele. It's natural that there would be resistance to sudden changes in the student profile." Michael stood up slowly. "Ma'am, the only natural thing in this situation is that children should be taught to respect each other. If your children don't know that, the problem isn't with Emma. It's with the education they receive at home." The comment caused uncomfortable murmurs in the room. "Mr. Harrison," interjected another father, "perhaps you don't understand our concern, but we pay high tuition precisely so our children can study with people from the same social level." "And what social level is that?" Michael asked calmly. "Well, people who share the same values, the same upbringing. Values like humiliating children for being different. Upbringing like teaching prejudice to your own children." "That's not it." The man tried to defend himself. "That's exactly it," Michael cut in. "And if you think money gives you the right to mistreat other people, your children shouldn't be in the same school as my daughter. She's the one teaching them real values." The discussion continued heatedly, but Michael made it clear that Emma would remain in the school and that any new discrimination incident would result in legal measures. After the meeting, Sarah was clearly shaken. "Michael, maybe this isn't worth it. I don't want Emma to suffer every day." "She won't suffer," Michael assured. People will learn to respect her, and if they don't learn, we'll teach them. And if we can't teach them, we will, because we're in this together. In the following days, Michael made a point of showing up at school frequently. He spoke with teachers, staff, and other parents, always making it clear that Emma was his daughter and that he wouldn't tolerate any kind of discrimination. Gradually, the attitude of the other children began to change. Some parents, embarrassed by the meeting, had serious conversations with their children about respect and inclusion. Emma began to make some friends and her confidence started to grow again. At home, the family routine was becoming established. Michael had hired a housekeeper to help with household chores, but Sarah insisted on keeping some responsibilities. "I don't want the girls to grow up thinking they don't need to contribute at home," she explained. One evening, while helping Emma with her homework, Michael noticed she was studying about family. "What did you write about our family?" he asked. "I wrote that our family is special because we weren't born together, but we chose each other," Emma read. "And that real love doesn't come from blood, it comes from the heart." Michael felt his eyes fill with tears. "That's perfect, Emma. My teacher said every family is different and that all are important." "Your teacher is right." "Michael," Emma suddenly asked, "are you going to marry my mom?" The question caught Michael off guard. "Why are you asking that?" "Because at school, families are like this, father, mother, and children. And I want our family to be the same." "Our family is already the same, Emma. Marriage is just a piece of paper." "But my mum would be happy. I see how she smiles when you come home." Michael looked toward the kitchen door, where Sarah was preparing dinner. It was true that they had grown closer in recent weeks. They talked for hours about the children, about work, about dreams. Michael felt happier and more complete than he had ever felt. "Do you think she would say yes if I asked?" Michael asked. "Of course she would," Emma laughed. "She loves you, even I can see that. And would you like me to be your real father, not just in your heart?" "I would like that very, very, very much." That night, after the children had gone to sleep, Michael asked Sarah to talk on the house's porch. "Sarah, can I ask you something?" "Of course." "Are you happy here, with this life we've built together?" Sarah smiled. "Very happy. Happier than I ever thought I could be." "Even though you had to give up your independence?" "Michael, I didn't give up my independence. I gained a partnership. It's very different." "Partnership?" "Yes. You're not supporting me out of charity. I work, I contribute to the household, I participate in decisions. We're partners in everything." Michael felt relief hearing this. "I'm glad you see it that way. How else could I see it?" "Sarah." Michael took a deep breath. "I need to tell you something important." "What is it?" "I love you. I love you as a woman, not just as the mother of my daughters. I love your strength, your dignity, your wisdom. I love how you've turned my life into something meaningful." Sarah lowered her eyes. "Michael, let me finish. I know our story started in a strange way. I know you might think my feelings are confused, mixing gratitude with love. But I'm sure of what I feel." "How can you be sure?" "Because for the first time in my life I wake up happy every day. Because when I come home I feel like I've really come home. Because when I look to the future, I can't imagine it without you all." Sarah raised her eyes, and Michael saw tears. "I love you too," she whispered, "but I'm afraid." "Afraid of what?" "That you'll get tired of us. That one day you'll realize you could have an easier life, without the complications of a woman with 3 children and no education." Michael moved closer and took Sarah's hands. "Sarah, you're not a complication. You're the best thing that's ever happened to me, and your daughters aren't a burden, they're a blessing." "Are you sure about that?" "Absolutely." Sarah fell silent for a long moment. "And what do you want from me?" "I want you to marry me. I want to officially adopt the girls. I want us to be a real family in the eyes of the law and the world." "Michael," Sarah began to cry, "is that a yes or no?" "It's yes," she whispered. "Yes to everything." Michael kissed her then, a gentle kiss full of love, sealing the promise of a future together. The next day they told the girls about the engagement. Emma screamed with joy. Olivia clapped without fully understanding what was happening, and baby Ethan smiled as if he knew something important was being celebrated. "Now you'll be our dad forever?" asked Emma. "Forever and ever," Michael promised. "And will we have the same last name?" "If you want to." "We do," shouted Emma and Olivia together. The wedding preparations were simple but full of meaning. Michael wanted a small, intimate ceremony, only with people who truly mattered. Sarah agreed, happy not to have to deal with the stress of a big party. At work, the news of the wedding caused varied reactions. Some employees were genuinely happy for their boss. Others murmured that he'd lost his mind. Michael didn't care about negative comments. For the first time in his life, he knew exactly what he wanted and was at peace with his decisions. 1 week before the wedding, Sarah received an unexpected offer. A competing company offered her a job with a salary much higher than what she earned working for Michael. "It's an incredible opportunity," she told Michael that evening. "They offered me the quality supervisor position." Michael felt a twinge of jealousy, but tried to be rational. "Is that what you want?" "I don't know. It's a lot of money, and it would be my own merit, independent of our relationship." "Sarah, you deserve any opportunity that comes your way. I'll never hold you back professionally. Even if it means I won't work with you anymore." Michael thought carefully about his response. "Even then, your professional success is yours, not mine, and I'll support any decision you make. What if it goes wrong? What if I can't meet expectations? Then you come back to work with me, or look for something else. There's no permanent failure when you have family to support you." Sarah kissed him. "Thank you for supporting me." "I'll always support you." After much thought, Sarah decided to accept the new job. "I want to try," she said. "I want to see how far I can go." Sarah's last day at Michael's company was emotional. Many employees who had initially rejected her came to say goodbye and wish her luck. She had earned everyone's respect through hard work and dedication. "I'll miss working with you," said Michael. "And I'll miss seeing you all day," Sarah replied. "But I think it'll be good for us to have separate professional lives." "I agree. It'll make our time together at the end of the day even more special." In her new job, Sarah faced even greater challenges. The company was bigger, more competitive, and she had to prove her worth quickly. Michael supported her however he could, helping her study at night and discussing work strategies. "Don't you think I'm being too ambitious?" Sarah asked one night, after a particularly difficult day. "I think you're being courageous. There's a difference." "What if I fail?" "You won't fail, but if you do, you'll learn and try again." "How can you be so sure I'll succeed?" Michael smiled. "Because you've already accomplished the hardest thing in the world, raising 3 daughters alone and maintaining your dignity through the toughest challenges. Compared to that, any job is a piece of cake." The wedding took place in a simple ceremony at the courthouse, followed by lunch at an intimate restaurant. Only a few friends and co-workers were present. The girls looked beautiful in new dresses, and Sarah wore a simple yet elegant dress that Michael had bought for her. During the ceremony, when the judge asked if Michael took Sarah as his wife, he replied in a firm voice, "Yes, and I also take your daughters as my own, to love and protect for the rest of my life." This declaration wasn't part of the official ceremony, but the judge allowed Michael to continue. "And I promise to be not just a husband and father, but a partner and friend to this family for as long as God allows." Sarah cried throughout the ceremony, but they were tears of pure joy. After the wedding, they began the legal process for Michael to adopt the girls. The process would be lengthy, but they were willing to wait as long as necessary. At her new job, Sarah quickly stood out. Her ability to solve practical problems and her experience dealing with resource limitations made her a valuable employee. Within a few months, she received her first promotion. "I'm proud of you," Michael said when she shared the news. "I'm proud of myself too," Sarah admitted. "I never thought I'd come this far. This is just the beginning." At home, the family dynamic was working perfectly. Emma was doing very well in school and had made several friends. Olivia was growing up happy and healthy. Baby Ethan was developing normally and already showed signs of being an intelligent and affectionate child like his sisters. Michael had discovered the joys and challenges of being a father. Sleepless nights when one of the children was sick, school meetings, help with homework, sibling arguments, all of this was new to him, but he embraced every aspect of fatherhood with enthusiasm. "You're a natural father," Sarah remarked one evening after Michael had spent 2 hours helping Emma with a science project. "I don't feel like a natural. I feel like I'm learning on the job." That's what all parents do. The difference is, you do it with love. One night while putting the girls to bed, Emma asked a question that caught Michael by surprise. "Michael, do you miss your life before?" "What life before?" "When you lived alone, without worries, without children to take care of." Michael sat on Emma's bed and thought carefully about his answer. "Emma, that life I had before wasn't really living. It was existing. Now I have a real life." "What's the difference?" "Existing is just breathing, eating, sleeping, working. Living is loving, caring about important people, having purpose, building happy memories." "And are you happy being our dad?" "Happier than I ever imagined I could be." Emma smiled and hugged him. "I'm happy being your daughter too." These small conversations with the children became Michael's most precious moments. He discovered that children had a natural wisdom and capacity for unconditional love that adults often lose. At work, Michael had also changed. He began implementing more humane policies at the company, offering better benefits for employees with children, flexible schedules for parents, and assistance programs for families in need. "You're changing the company culture," his partner David observed during a meeting. "For the better, I hope." "Definitely for the better. Employees are more motivated, more loyal, and interestingly, our productivity has increased." "Happy people work better," Michael concluded. "When are you going to tell me the secret to this transformation?" Michael smiled. "The secret is simple. I learned that true success isn't measured by money, but by how much love you have in your life." David laughed. "You've become a philosopher?" "I became a father. It's almost the same thing." 6 months after the wedding, Sarah received another promotion, this time to department manager. It was an important leadership position, with a team under her responsibility. "I'm scared," she confessed to Michael. "I've never led people before." "You've led 3 children for years," Michael reminded her. "If you manage that, you can lead any team." "Children are different from adults." "That's true. Adults are more complicated." Sarah laughed. "Thank you for always making me smile when I'm nervous." "That's what a husband is for." In her new role, Sarah faced bigger challenges, but also discovered talents she didn't know she had. Her ability to resolve conflicts, developed through years of raising daughters, proved valuable for managing a team. Her experience in making do with less translated into operational efficiency that impressed the board. At home, Sarah's professional changes required some adjustments to the family routine. Michael took on more domestic and child-rearing responsibilities, something he did with pleasure. "Don't you think I should be more present at home?" Sarah asked one evening after arriving late from an important meeting. "I think you should be where you feel fulfilled," Michael replied, "and I see that you love your work now. I really do, but I don't want the girls to feel I'm neglecting them." "Sarah, our daughters are seeing their mother as an example of a strong, smart, and successful woman. That's a gift you're giving them." "Do you really think so?" "I'm sure. Emma told me the other day she wants to be like her mom when she grows up, strong and hard-working." Michael's words reassured Sarah. She had grown up without positive examples of female success and wanted to give her daughters different role models than she had. 1 year after the wedding, the family received news that would change their lives forever. The adoption of the girls by Michael had been approved by the court. "Now you're officially my daughters," Michael told Emma and Olivia, showing them the documents. "We've always been your daughters," Emma replied. "Now it's just that the government knows too." The child's wisdom once again touched Michael's heart. It was true. The papers only confirmed what everyone already knew in their hearts. To celebrate, they had a small party at home, just for the family. Michael gave each of the girls a necklace with a heart-shaped pendant engraved with Dad's beloved daughter. "Do we have the same last name now?" Olivia asked. "Now we do," Michael confirmed. "And when people ask, can I say you're my real dad? You can say I'm your real dad, because that's exactly what I am." That night, after the children fell asleep, Michael and Sarah talked about how their lives had changed in less than 2 years. "Do you remember how it all started?" Sarah asked. "How could I forget? You were sitting on the street, protecting the girls, refusing my help because you were too proud to accept charity. And you insisted on helping even though I was difficult. You weren't difficult, you were dignified. It's different. And now look where we are." Michael looked around the house. Family photos on the walls, toys scattered around, school books on the table, all the signs of a full and happy family life. "We've reached paradise," he said. "Even with all the challenges, the sleepless nights, the school meetings, the constant worries. Especially because of all that. Those challenges are what make life real." Sarah moved closer and hugged him. "I love you for giving us this chance. I love you for accepting. And now? Now we live happily ever after, like in fairy tales." "But fairy tales don't exist in real life." Michael smiled. "Ours does." 2 years after that chance encounter on the street, Michael often found himself thinking about how a simple decision, stopping the car to help strangers, had completely transformed his existence. He had gained a family, discovered life's purpose, and found a happiness he never knew existed. Sarah had achieved financial stability, professional fulfillment, and the love of a man who valued her for who she truly was. The girls had gained a loving father, a comfortable life, and the certainty that they were loved unconditionally. But the greatest transformation had been in how everyone viewed the world. Michael had learned that true wealth was measured in love, not money. Sarah had discovered that she deserved respect and opportunities like anyone else. The children had learned that families are built with love, not necessarily with blood ties. One evening, while helping Emma, now 9 years old, with a school project about heroes, she asked a question that surprised him. "Michael, who is your hero?" Michael thought for a moment. "You three. You, Olivia, and Ethan. And your mother." "Us? Why?" "Because you taught me what real courage is. Courage isn't about not being afraid, it's about being afraid but doing what's right anyway. And what did we do that was courageous?" "Your mother was courageous when she asked me to take you to a shelter because she wanted what was best for you, even knowing it would break her heart. You were courageous when you accepted me as a father, even though you didn't know me. All of you were courageous in allowing a stranger to become part of your family." Emma smiled. "And you? What did you do that was courageous?" "I stopped the car that day. It was the most courageous thing I've ever done in my life." "Why was that courageous?" "Because it meant opening my heart to people I might lose. And after losing my parents, I was very afraid to love anyone again. But you love us now. More than anything in the world. So was it worth being courageous?" Michael hugged his daughter. "It was worth more than anything I've ever done in my life." Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now continuing. As the years passed, the family continued growing in strength and unity. Michael became a respected businessman, not only for his financial success, but for the humane way he conducted his business. Sarah established herself as a competent and respected executive, proving that talent and determination were more important than expensive degrees. Emma developed into a brilliant and compassionate child, inheriting the intelligence of her adoptive father and the strength of her mother. Olivia grew up joyful and affectionate, always ready to make others smile. Ethan proved to be a curious and loving child, absorbing the constant love that surrounded him. But perhaps the most significant transformation was the perspective they all gained about life. They learned that families don't need to be conventional to be perfect, that true love knows no social or economic barriers, that sometimes the most casual encounters can lead to the deepest relationships. Michael often returned to that street where he found his family for the first time, not out of nostalgia, but to remember where they had come from and how much they had grown together. Sometimes he took the children with him, so they would never forget their humble origins and would always value the opportunities they had. "Why do we come here, Daddy?" asked Ethan, now 4 years old. "To remember that miracles happen every day," Michael would reply. "We just need to be open to seeing them." And it was true. What had started as a chance encounter between a lonely businessman and a desperate family had turned into something much bigger than any of them could have imagined. It had become a story of mutual transformation, of second chances, and proof that true love can arise in the most unexpected places. At Sarah's company, she had become an inspiration for other women in difficult situations. She often shared her story at talks and events, always emphasizing that it doesn't matter where you come from, but where you choose to go. "I'm not an exceptional example," she would say. "I'm just an ordinary person who was lucky enough to find someone who believed in me when I had lost hope myself." Michael, in turn, had created a program in his company to hire and train people in socially vulnerable situations. The program had become a model for other businesses, proving that social responsibility and business success could go hand in hand. "It's not charity," he always explained to entrepreneurs interested in the program. "It's good business. People who've had to fight for everything are exceptionally dedicated and creative employees." The 3 children were growing up in an environment where human values were as important as academic achievements. They learned early on to value hard work, to treat everyone with respect, and to never forget that true wealth lies in the relationships they built. One day, when Emma was 12, she came home from school with an interesting proposal. "Daddy, can I talk to you about an idea I had?" "Of course, sweetheart. What's the idea?" "I want to create a project at school to help families going through hard times, like we were going through when you found us." Michael felt pride swell in his chest. "What kind of project?" "We could collect food, clothes, toys, and we could also offer tutoring for children who can't afford private teachers." "That's a beautiful idea, Emma. What do you need from me?" "I need you to help me organize everything properly. And maybe your company could help with something?" Michael hugged his daughter. "You can count on me, and I'm sure your mother will want to participate too." Emma's project became a success at school and later expanded to other schools in the area. Michael provided logistical and financial support. Sarah helped with organization, and the 3 children actively participated in the activities. "You're raising a generation of conscious people," the school principal observed to Michael during a meeting about the project. "Actually, they're the ones teaching me about consciousness," Michael replied. "I just provide the resources." The truth was that Michael continued learning from his family every day. The children taught him about simple joy, about easy forgiveness, about unconditional love. Sarah taught him about true strength, about dignity in the face of adversity, about the importance of never giving up on one's dreams. In return, he gave them stability, opportunities, and the security of knowing they were loved unconditionally. It was a fair and constant exchange, where everyone grew and strengthened each other. 5 years after that first meeting on the street, Michael and Sarah decided to renew their marriage vows. Not because there were problems in the marriage, but because they wanted to celebrate how much they had grown as a family. The ceremony was held in their backyard, with the 3 children as special witnesses. Emma read a poem she had written about family. Olivia sang a song. Ethan, now 6 years old, proudly delivered the rings. 5 years ago, Michael said in his speech, "I thought I was saving you. Today I know that you actually saved me." "We saved each other," Sarah corrected, "and we continue saving each other every day." It was a profound observation. True relationships are like that, a continuous process of mutual care, shared growth, constant support. It's not something you achieve once and that's it. It's something you build day after day, with small gestures of love and large gestures of commitment. That night, after the party, when the children were already asleep, Michael and Sarah sat in the garden to talk. "What are you thinking about?" Sarah asked. "I'm thinking about how lucky we are," Michael replied. "Lucky?" "Yes, because so many people spend their whole lives looking for what we found by chance on that street." "Do you think it was chance?" Michael thought about the question. Maybe not. Maybe it was fate. Or maybe it was just the result of two people who were ready to love and be loved. "I like the second option better," Sarah said, "because it means we made it happen. We didn't just depend on luck. You're right, we chose each other, and we continue choosing each other every day." "And we always will?" "Forever," Michael promised, and it was a promise he knew he would keep. Because he had learned that true love isn't a feeling you have, but a choice you make, and he chose that family every day, just as they chose him. As the years continued to pass, the family faced other challenges, like all families do. There were moments of illness, financial stress, even with the stability they had achieved, and typical family misunderstandings. But each challenge only strengthened the bonds between them. Emma entered adolescence as a mature and socially conscious young woman. She maintained her interest in helping others and began participating in various social projects. Michael and Sarah supported her, proud to see they had raised someone concerned with others' well-being. Olivia developed a natural talent for music and art, inheriting the creativity and sensitivity of both parents. She brought joy and lightness to the home, always ready to make everyone laugh with her jokes and improvised performances. Ethan grew into a curious and intelligent child, asking questions about everything and showing signs of inheriting his father's entrepreneurial spirit. But at the same time, he demonstrated the compassion and social awareness that characterized the entire family. Michael had become an even more successful businessman, but now success had a different meaning. It wasn't just about profits and growth, but about positive impact on people's lives. His companies were known for treating employees with respect, paying fair wages, and actively contributing to the community. Sarah had established herself as one of the most respected executives in her field, often invited for speaking engagements and consultations. She never forgot her humble origins and always used her position to open doors for other people in situations similar to what she had faced. But despite all the professional success, the most precious moments for both continued to be family times. Home dinners, weekends in the park, simple vacations, bedtime conversations, these were the things that truly mattered. One night, 10 years after that meeting that changed their lives, Michael woke in the middle of the night and went to check on the children in their rooms. It was a habit he had developed, a need to confirm that everything was okay, that his family was safe and happy. Emma, now a 17-year-old teenager, slept with books scattered across her bed, always studying to earn a scholarship for university, even though Michael had offered to pay for her education. She wanted to achieve it on her own merit. Olivia, at 15, slept with a gentle smile on her face, probably dreaming of her music and drawings. Ethan, at 11, slept hugging a teddy bear he had received during his first Christmas with the new family. Even as he grew older, he still held on to some childlike gestures of affection. Michael returned to the room where Sarah slept peacefully. She had grown even more beautiful over the years, but it was a beauty that came from within, from a fulfilled woman, loved and at peace with herself. Sitting in the armchair in the room, Michael reflected on the journey they had taken together, from a desperate family living on the streets to a solid, well-structured family, from strangers helping each other to people who loved one another unconditionally. But what impressed him most was how they had all transformed in the process. He had gone from being a wealthy, lonely man to becoming a devoted father and husband. Sarah had evolved from a desperate mother into a confident and respected executive. The children had grown up in an environment of love and opportunities, yet none of them had lost their essential traits. Michael remained determined and successful, only now he channeled those qualities for the good of the family. Sarah kept her strength and dignity, but now she had the support she needed to flourish. The children preserved their natural sweetness and intelligence, but now they had every opportunity to develop them. It was as if each had found the best version of themselves through love and mutual support. The next morning during breakfast, Emma made an important announcement. "Everyone, I have some news to share." The whole family stopped to pay attention. "I got the full scholarship to university. I'm going to study law." The table erupted in celebration. Michael stood up to hug his oldest daughter. "I'm so proud of you," he said with tears in his eyes. "Thank you, Dad, for everything." You earned this on your own, Emma. I just provided the support. No, she said firmly. You gave me much more than support. You set an example. You showed me that it's possible to overcome anything when you have love and determination. Sarah also hugged her daughter. What do you want to do with your law degree? I want to work in child and family rights. I want to help families like we were before Dad found us. Michael felt a deep emotion hearing this. His daughter had chosen to dedicate her life to helping others, perpetuating the cycle of transformation that had begun with them. It's a difficult field, Sarah warned. You'll see a lot of injustice, a lot of suffering. I know, Emma replied, but I'll also have the chance to make a difference in the lives of people who need it most, like you did in mine. At that moment, Michael realized that his family's legacy would be much greater than he had imagined. It wasn't just about 4 people finding happiness together, but about a new generation carrying forward values of compassion, hard work, and social responsibility. Months later, when Emma started university, Michael took her on her first day of classes. It was a sunny morning, and Michael remembered another morning, many years earlier, when he had taken a much younger Emma to her first day at private school. Nervous? He asked. A little, admitted Emma, but it's a good kind of nervous, the kind full of anticipation. You're going to do great. I'm sure of it. How can you be so sure? Because you have something that can't be taught in any university, genuine empathy for people who suffer. That will make you an exceptional lawyer. On the way, they talked about Emma's plans for the future, about how she wanted to use her legal knowledge to help others, about the challenges she would face. Dad, Emma said when they arrived at the university, can I ask you something? Of course. Do you ever regret stopping the car that day? Changing your life completely for our sake? Michael looked at his daughter, now an intelligent and determined young woman, about to begin a journey that would likely change many lives. Emma, he said, that day was the beginning of my real life. Everything that happened before was just preparation for what truly matters. And what truly matters? To love and be loved, to make a difference in other people's lives, to build something that will last long beyond our own existence. Emma hugged him tightly before getting out of the car. Thank you for giving us the chance to build this with you. As Michael drove back home, he thought about how life can take completely unexpected turns. 10 years earlier, if someone had told him he would be a father of 3 children, married to a woman he met living on the street, he would have considered it impossible. But there he was, returning home where a loving wife and 2 more children were waiting for him. Returning to a life full of meaning, purpose, and true love. When he entered the house, he found Sarah preparing lunch while helping Olivia with a school project and talking with Ethan about his weekend plans. It was a scene of organized chaos, typical of family life, and Michael wouldn't trade it for anything in the world. How was dropping off our college student? Asked Sarah. Emotional, replied Michael. She's ready to change the world. She learned from the best, Olivia commented, looking at her parents. Actually, said Michael, we learned from each other, and we're still learning. It was a simple but profound observation. True relationships are continuous schools where everyone is simultaneously teachers and students, where each day brings new lessons about love, patience, compassion, and growth. That afternoon, while the whole family was gathered in the living room, Sarah reading work reports, Olivia playing guitar, Ethan building something with Lego, and Michael reviewing business proposals, he looked around and realized that this was his place in the world. Not the luxurious office, not the expensive cars, not the houses in upscale neighborhoods. His place was those people, that love, that life built together. And for the first time in many years, Michael remembered a prayer his mother used to say when he was a child. Thank you for the blessings received and for the family we have. In that moment, he fully understood what she meant. 5 years passed. Emma had graduated with honors in law and started working at an organization that advocated for the rights of vulnerable children. Olivia was finishing high school and had been accepted into a prestigious music school. Ethan, now 16 years old, showed interest in both business and social work. Michael and Sarah, now in their 50s, had found a perfect balance between professional and family life. Their children were becoming responsible and compassionate adults, and they could take pride in what they had built together. One evening, during a family dinner to celebrate another legal victory for Emma, she had managed to keep a vulnerable family together through a support program instead of forced separation. Michael reflected. "You know," he said, "sometimes I wonder what our lives would be like if I hadn't stopped the car that night." "I'd be a successful executive living alone," joked Sarah. "I'd be a brilliant college student with no clear purpose," added Emma. "And I'd be a rebellious teenager with no direction," laughed Ethan. "And I'd be a starving artist," completed Olivia. Everyone laughed, but then grew serious for a moment. "Actually," said Sarah, "I probably wouldn't have survived that period, and the girls—" She couldn't finish the sentence. Michael took her hand. "You're stronger than you think. You would have found a way." "Maybe," Sarah agreed, "but it would never be as beautiful a path as the one we found together." Emma raised her juice glass, a toast to the family we chose to be. Everyone raised their glasses. To the family we chose to be. It was a perfect toast for a family that had learned that the strongest bonds aren't necessarily those of blood, but those of mutual choice, unconditional love, and daily commitment to each other's well-being. That night, after the children went to sleep, Michael and Sarah stayed up talking about future plans. Ethan would soon be starting college. Olivia was about to begin her music career. Emma was building a promising career in law. "In a few years, the house will be empty," Sarah observed. "Are you worried about that?" asked Michael. "A little. Our whole life has revolved around the children for so long. But we have our life as a couple too, we always have." "That's true. I guess I'm afraid that when we no longer have the children as our main focus, we'll discover we have nothing in common." Michael laughed. "Sarah, we talk for hours about everything. Work, dreams, philosophy, politics, books we've read, movies we've watched. We have plenty in common besides the children." "You're right." "And besides," Michael continued, "the children will always be part of our lives, just in different ways. Soon we'll have grandchildren to look forward to, weddings to celebrate, professional successes to cheer." The idea of grandchildren made Sarah smile. "Do you think they'll be parents like we were?" "I think they'll be better. Each generation has the opportunity to learn from the previous one and improve." It was an optimistic yet realistic perspective. Michael and Sarah had done their best as parents, but they knew their children would learn from their successes and mistakes to be even better parents for the next generation. "Michael," Sarah said suddenly, "do you remember that first night at your house when I said I couldn't stay there indefinitely?" "I remember." "Were you disappointed when I said that?" "I was, because I already knew I wanted you in my life forever." "How did you know so quickly?" Michael thought about the question. "I guess because for the first time in my life I felt complete. I can't really explain it, but it was as if you filled spaces in me that I didn't even know existed." "I felt the same way," Sarah admitted, "but I was also very afraid." "Afraid of what?" "That it was too good to be true, that you'd change your mind, that I wasn't good enough to deserve that life. And now? Now I know I deserve to be happy as much as anyone, and I know you'd never change your mind about us because we're your real family." It was a deep conversation about insecurities, fears, and the evolution of their feelings over the years. But it was also a conversation about growth, healing, and building solid trust. "Sarah," Michael said, "can I make a confession?" "Of course." "Sometimes I wake up in the middle of the night and go look at you all sleeping, just to make sure this is all real." Sarah laughed softly. "I do the same thing. Sometimes it feels like a dream, but it's real. And it will continue to be real for the rest of our lives." It was a simple promise, but full of meaning. In a world where relationships are often temporary and conditional, they had built something permanent and unconditional. The next day, Michael woke up with an idea. He wanted to do something special to mark the 15 years since he had met his family. Not a big party, but something meaningful that celebrated the journey they had taken together. During breakfast, he shared his idea with the family. "How about we take a trip together? The whole family, to somewhere that's special to all of us." "What kind of place?" asked Olivia. "I was thinking, how about we go back to that street where we met? Not to stay there, but to see how it is now, and then we could take a trip to somewhere beautiful to celebrate. The suggestion created a momentary silence. Going back to that place would bring back many memories, some painful. "I'd like that," said Sarah finally. "I think it's important to remember where we came from." "Me too," agreed Emma, "and it would be interesting to show Ethan, who barely remembers that time." Ethan nodded. "I want to know our story." Olivia also agreed. "I think it will be exciting to see how everything has changed." The following weekend, they took the trip to downtown New York. The street where Michael had found the family still existed, but it had changed a lot. It was cleaner, busier, with some new businesses. They stopped at the exact spot where they had first met. Michael parked the car, a different car now, but equally luxurious, and everyone got out to look around. "It was here," said Sarah, pointing to a wall. "It was here that we were sitting when you stopped." Michael looked at the spot and vividly remembered that night. The fear in Sarah's eyes, the instinctive protection of the daughters, the dignity in the midst of despair. "How do you feel being here now?" he asked. "Grateful," Emma answered immediately. "Grateful for everything that happened after that moment." "I feel proud," said Sarah, "proud of having survived that time and of raising you even in the worst circumstances." "And I feel hope," added Olivia, "because if our family could change so much, other families can too." Ethan, who barely remembered that period, was quiet, absorbing the importance of the moment. Michael approached the wall where Sarah had been sitting with the children 15 years earlier. "Can I do something that might seem strange?" he asked. "What?" everyone asked. Michael approached the wall and touched it gently. "Thank you," he said quietly. "Michael?" Sarah asked, confused. "I'm thanking this place," he explained, "because it was here that my real life began." The family was moved by the gesture. It was a simple but powerful demonstration of how Michael valued not only what they had become, but the entire journey that had brought them there. After the emotional visit to the place where it all began, they went to a beautiful restaurant for lunch. It was the kind of restaurant Sarah could never have imagined going to 15 years earlier. "You know," Michael said during lunch, "I want you to know that these have been the 15 happiest years of my life." "Even with all the worries, the stress, the sleepless nights?" asked Sarah, laughing. "Especially because of all that," Michael replied. "Because those things mean real life, real family, real love." "And now?" asked Ethan. "What happens in the next 15 years? Now we watch you build your own lives, your own families, your own dreams. And we continue to be a family, no matter what happens." "Forever?" asked Olivia. "Forever," promised Michael. After lunch, they visited some of the places that had been important in their journey. The girls' first school, the first apartment where Sarah had lived after leaving Michael's house, the company where she had started working. Each location brought back memories and reflections on how much they had grown and changed. But it also reinforced the solidity of what they had built together. At the end of the day, back home, they gathered in the living room to talk about the experience. "How was it for you to revisit our story?" asked Michael. "Emotional," said Sarah. "It made me realize how brave we were, even when we didn't know we were being brave. It made me appreciate what we have even more," added Emma. "And it motivated me to work even harder to help other families." "It helped me better understand where I came from," said Ethan. "And it made me prouder of our family." "And it made me realize that our story is special," concluded Olivia. "Not everyone has a family like ours." Michael agreed with everything that had been said, but for him, the most important reflection was about the future. "You know," he said, "our story doesn't end here. In fact, I think it's just beginning." "How so?" asked Sarah. "Because now you're going to spread throughout the world everything you've learned about love, family, and overcoming. Emma through her work with vulnerable families, Olivia through the art she will create, Ethan through whatever path he chooses, and you, Sarah, through the example you continue to be for other women." It was a beautiful and inspiring perspective. They weren't just a family that had overcome hardships. They were people who now had the responsibility to use their experiences to help others. "And you, Dad?" asked Emma. "How will you continue our story?" Michael smiled. "I will continue to be the man you helped me become. someone who understands that true success is measured in lives touched, not in money accumulated. That night, after everyone had gone to sleep, Michael stayed awake thinking about a question Sarah had asked during the day. Do you think we would have found each other anyway, even if it hadn't been on that street that night? It was an interesting question. Would two people from such different worlds have found some path to each other? Michael wanted to believe so. He wanted to believe that souls destined to complement each other always find a way to connect. But he also knew that life is full of unexplored possibilities, of encounters that could have happened but didn't. What mattered, he decided, wasn't speculating about alternatives that never existed. What mattered was valuing what had actually happened and continuing to build on that solid foundation. The next morning, Michael woke up with a decision. He wanted to do something to perpetuate his family's story so that others could be inspired by it. During breakfast, he shared his idea. "I want to write a book about our story," he announced. The family stopped eating to look at him. "A book?" asked Sarah. "About us?" "About transformation. About second chances. About how love can change everything. Our story is just the example." "But our story is very personal," noted Olivia. "That's true. That's why I want everyone's permission. And if anyone doesn't want it, I'll forget the idea." Emma was the first to respond. "I think our story can inspire many people, especially families going through difficulties." "I think so too," Ethan agreed. "If our story helps at least one family, it's worth it." Olivia thought for a moment. "Can we change the names to protect our privacy?" "Of course," Michael agreed. "We can change any details you'd like." Sarah was the last to speak up. "Michael, are you sure you want to expose our lives this way?" "I want to expose our transformation. I want to show the world that no matter where you come from, it's always possible to start over." "Then it's decided," said Sarah. "We'll tell our story." Michael spent the following months writing the book. It was an exciting and sometimes painful process, reliving every detail of their journey as a family. He interviewed each family member, asking about their perspectives on the different moments they had shared. He discovered details he hadn't known, feelings he hadn't noticed at the time. For example, he learned that Sarah had cried on the first night in his house, not from sadness, but from relief that her daughters were finally safe. He discovered that Emma had stayed awake for hours that first night, afraid Michael would change his mind about them the next day. He also found out that Olivia had always known, even when very young, that the family was going through hard times, and that she tried to be the cheerful daughter so as not to worry her mother even more. Each revelation deepened Michael's understanding of his family and how each of them had contributed to the success of their relationship. The book was published a year later, titled Family by Choice, A Story of Transformation and Love. Michael donated all proceeds to organizations working with vulnerable families. The book became a success, touching thousands of readers who identified with different aspects of the story. Michael received hundreds of letters from people sharing their own stories of overcoming and transformation. But the letter that moved him the most came from a businessman from another city. "Mr. Harrison, I just finished reading your book. Yesterday, on my way home from work, I saw a family living on the street near my house. Normally, I would have passed by, as I always have. But after reading your story, I stopped my car. Today, that family is in my home, and we're talking about how I can help them rebuild their lives. I don't know if our story will be like yours, but I know I couldn't keep passing by after realizing what I've been missing all these years. Thank you for teaching me that family isn't about blood, but about heart." Michael showed the letter to Sarah and the children. Everyone was moved. "Our story is helping other people," Sarah observed. "That's what I hoped for," said Michael, "that our experience could inspire others to open their hearts." "And now?" asked Ethan, always interested in the next steps. "Now we continue living our story," Michael replied, "and we let it inspire whoever wants to be inspired." 5 years had passed since the book's publication. Emma had become a respected lawyer. Olivia was making a name for herself as a songwriter and singer, and Ethan had started a business administration course focused on social responsibility. Michael and Sarah, now in their 50s, had found a new rhythm of life. With the children grown and independent, they rediscovered the joy of being a couple, traveling together, exploring new hobbies, simply enjoying life as a pair. But the most special moment came when Emma announced she was pregnant. "You're going to be grandparents," she said during a Sunday dinner. The table erupted in joy. Michael felt an emotion he couldn't describe. It was as if his family was expanding in a way he had never imagined. "When?" asked Sarah, already planning how to help with the baby. 6 months, Emma replied. "And there's one more thing." "What?" everyone asked at once. "If it's a girl, we want to name her Elizabeth, in honor of the grandma she never knew, but whose values were passed down to me through all of you." Michael felt tears in his eyes. Elizabeth was his mother's name, who had passed away when he was young. The idea that his granddaughter would carry the name of the grandmother she'd never known created a connection between generations that moved him deeply. "And if it's a boy?" asked Sarah. "Gabriel," said Emma, "because guardian angels deserve to be remembered." She was referring to Michael, who always said he'd been the family's guardian angel on that fateful night. In the following months, the whole family got involved in preparations for the baby's arrival. Michael and Sarah transformed one of the rooms in the house into a nursery for their granddaughter or grandson. Olivia composed a lullaby. Ethan started planning how to be the coolest uncle in the world. It was as if the family was being reborn, gaining a new dimension of love and purpose. When little Elizabeth finally arrived, Michael held her in his arms and felt something that could only be described as pure, instant love. Looking at that small, perfect child, he thought about how life is full of circles completing themselves. 15 years earlier, he'd held baby Ethan in his arms when the family first came to his home. Now he was holding Elizabeth, the next generation of the family he had chosen. "What are you thinking, Grandpa?" asked Emma, watching Michael with the baby. "I'm thinking our story continues," Michael replied, "and that this little princess will know a version of the world better than any generation before her." "How can you be so sure?" "Because she'll grow up in a family that knows the value of unconditional love. Because she'll learn from a young age that it doesn't matter where you come from, but where you choose to go. And because she'll have examples of people who turned hardships into strength." It was an optimistic perspective, but based on years of real experience. Michael knew life always brings challenges, but he also knew a united family can overcome anything. That evening, with Elizabeth sleeping in the crib beside Emma's bed, the whole family gathered in the living room to talk about the future. "Now we're officially a 3-generation family," Sarah observed. "And what will our legacy be for her?" asked Olivia. "The same as our legacy was for you," Michael answered. "Love, opportunities, values, and the certainty that she'll always have a family to support her." "But there's one thing different now," said Ethan. "What's that?" "Now Elizabeth will grow up hearing our story from the beginning. She'll know that families can be formed in many different ways, and that all are valid." It was a profound observation. Elizabeth would grow up with a natural understanding that family love doesn't depend on biology, but on daily choices of care and commitment. "Do you think we'll tell her about how it all began?" asked Sarah. "Of course," Emma said immediately. "I want her to know about Grandma's courage, about Grandpa's generosity, about how our family was formed through love and not by chance." "And when she's older," Olivia added, "maybe she'll write her own version of our story." Michael liked the idea. Each generation would interpret and retell the family story according to their own perspective and experience. "Or maybe she'll create a completely new story," Ethan suggested, "even more beautiful than ours." "Impossible," Michael joked. "Our story is perfect." "It's perfect because it's ours," Sarah corrected, "but her story will be perfect for her." It was a wise observation. Every person, every family, needs to create their own narrative of happiness and fulfillment. In the following years, Elizabeth grew up surrounded by love and attention. Michael discovered that being a grandfather was different from being a father. There was less pressure and more pure joy in every shared moment. He loved telling stories to his granddaughter, taking her for walks in the park, teaching her simple things like tying her shoes or riding a bike. Sarah had become the most dedicated grandmother in the world, always available to take care of Elizabeth when Emma needed to work. When Elizabeth turned 5, she asked a question that moved the whole family. "Grandpa Michael, why do people ask me if you're my real grandfather?" The question came during a walk in the park, when a lady had commented that Elizabeth didn't look like Michael. Michael crouched down to the girl's eye level. "What do you think, my love? Am I your real grandfather?" "Of course you are," Elizabeth answered without hesitation. "You love me, take care of me, play with me. If that's not being a real grandfather, I don't know what is." The child's response was simple but profound. She had grown up in an environment where family love was defined by actions, not genetics. "You're right, Princess. And do you know why some people ask that question?" "Why?" "Because not everyone has learned yet that real family is the one we choose and that chooses us back. But you'll help people learn that." "How?" "By being yourself, showing how happy and loved you are in our family. When people see that, they'll understand." Elizabeth nodded, satisfied with the explanation, and went back to playing. But the child's question made Michael think. In a world where unconventional families still faced prejudice, how could they continue to show that love is more important than traditions? The answer came when Elizabeth was 7 years old. Her school was organizing a fair about different types of families, and Elizabeth asked to make a presentation about her family. "I want to tell our story," she told Michael. "I want other children to know that families can be formed in many different ways." Michael was proud of his granddaughter's initiative, but also a little worried. "Are you sure you want to do this, my love? Some people might not understand our story." "Then it's even more important that I tell it," Elizabeth replied with determination, "because if I don't tell it, how will they learn?" The child's logic was irrefutable. Michael helped Elizabeth prepare her presentation. She made a photo album showing special family moments, births, graduations, trips, celebrations. Each photo came with a simple explanation about how their family was formed through love. On presentation day, the whole family came to watch. Elizabeth, wearing her best dress, confidently spoke about her family to an audience of children, parents, and teachers. "This is my family," she began. "My grandpa Michael found my mother and my aunts when they were children and needed help. He chose to take care of them, and they chose to love him as a father. Later, my grandma Sarah and my grandpa Michael got married, and now we're a big, happy family." She showed each photo, explaining who each person was and why they were special. "Some families are born ready," Elizabeth concluded. "Our family was built with love, brick by brick." The presentation was met with warm applause. Several families approached afterward to talk with Elizabeth and her grandparents about their experience. A single mother told Michael, "Thank you for your granddaughter's presentation. My daughter sometimes feels bad about not having a father, but today she saw that different families can be equally happy." A couple who were trying to adopt a child thanked them for sharing their story. "You gave us hope that we can form true bonds with a child, even if they're not biologically ours." Michael noticed that Elizabeth was doing exactly what he hoped, spreading the message that family love doesn't have a single definition. That evening, during the celebration dinner, Michael looked around the table and saw 3 generations of his family gathered: him and Sarah, Emma, Olivia and Ethan, and little Elizabeth. 20 years had passed since that encounter that changed their lives. They had faced challenges, celebrated achievements, grown as individuals and as a family. And now they were planting seeds for the next generation to continue spreading love and understanding throughout the world. "You know," said Michael, "when I was younger I thought success meant having lots of money and professional recognition." "And now?" asked Elizabeth, always curious. "Now I know that success is this right here," he pointed to everyone around the table. "It's having people we love and who love us. It's knowing our life made a difference in others' lives. It's being able to look back without regrets and forward with hope." "And what's our next adventure as a family?" asked Ethan, always planning the future. "Our next adventure is to continue being who we are," replied Sarah, "to continue loving, supporting each other, and showing the world that there are many ways to be happy. And maybe," added Elizabeth with a mischievous smile, "finding other families who need help, like Grandpa Michael found ours." The child's suggestion made everyone smile. It was proof that family values were being passed to the next generation naturally and organically. Who knows, agreed Michael. The world is full of families waiting to be formed. And so, 20 years after that chance encounter on a street in downtown New York, the Harrison family continued growing, learning, and spreading love throughout the world. Their story had become something greater than the sum of its individual parts. It had become a living demonstration that true love can transform any life, any circumstance, any future. Each day, they chose again to be a family. And each day, that choice made them stronger, more united, and more grateful for the extraordinary journey they had shared. The future was full of possibilities, grandchildren yet to be born, professional achievements yet to come, challenges they would still face together. But one thing was certain, they would face everything as they always had, united by the love they had chosen to build and nurture day after day. And perhaps, just perhaps, their story would continue inspiring other people to stop the car, reach out, and discover that the perfect family might be waiting in places where we never imagined finding it. End of story. Now tell us what you thought of the story and where you're watching from. If you have something to share with us, leave it in the comments with sincere words. Do you believe Michael made the right decision? We'd love to read your opinion. Thank you so much for your company.